microphone. You sure? All right.
Thank you. You're not feeling very Madonna. Alright, thanks Carol. Thanks everyone for turning out to hear about science and climate change and energy and emissions tonight. We're going to have a great time. You'll love it. So my name is Dr. Jessica Allen. I'm from the University of Newcastle and I lecture in chemical engineering. So today I'm going to talk to you about energy. But as Carol's already partly warned you, I could be labelled as a bit of a dark greenie because I actually work on renewable energy technology as well as energy technology that uses fossil fuels. Not two areas that generally overlap, and in fact opinions are very strongly divided. But tonight I'm going to tell you a few things I've learnt about energy and emissions over the last 10 years of working in the industry. And it's not all bad news. I'm going to give you a bit of an insight into a new technology concept that I think is really exciting. Okay. So, when people learn that I work in low emission coal, they are immediately suspicious of me. Why do I work in coal? Do I have vested interests in coal? I must only care about the continued burning of coal and getting funding, and I don't care about renewables and emissions. Besides, clean coal is about as real as a pink unicorn. And it's not hard to understand why people think that, considering some political attitudes and previous shady dealings of the fossil fuel industry. But no, not even close. I care. I care about future generations, and I care about emissions. In fact, I care so much, I have made it the whole aim and point of my career is to have an impact on global emissions, to halt irreversible climate change. I started out pretty idealistic. So I have a PhD in renewable energy. I did a project that was on water splitting, making hydrogen on a large scale using solid thermal energy inputs. I also worked as a professional engineer in a startup technology company. We were looking to commercialise renewable energy from biomass waste, and we were turning that into biochar, an amazing agricultural amendment, as well as carbon negative energy. And in that time I saw funding for hydrogen energy cut and bid. I saw zero support from government for renewable energy technologies, which meant that the company that I worked for went under because there was no investment, everyone was too risk averse. So when I went back to academia, I chose to work on a low emission coal technology. And it's not because I'd given up on renewables. No, I promise you I have not given up. It's because I decided that as long as people were still using coal to make electricity in Australia or globally, and as long as Australia kept exporting so much coal that it made up a third of the world's coal trade, that I would be working on methods to reduce or eliminate the impact of coal-fired power. Okay? So I'm cynical enough from what I've learned over the years that I think it's very unlikely we're going to get to a zero-emission future without first transitioning through fossil fuel-based technologies which are more efficient. But I'm optimistic that we can do this in a way that we can have a real impact on emissions and we can slow or halt global warming. I constantly question my decisions in this area, by the way, so, you know, shoot something at me, maybe I'll change my mind and I'll give up on the coal route. But I do try and get all of the information I have to make the best decision about where I see the biggest impact being for emissions. In the end, I don't really care how we get to a zero emission future, as long as we get there. So, I'm going to start off tonight by saying the energy issue isn't as black and white, good and evil as it might sometimes appear. If it releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, it's a terrible idea. It's what one anonymous commenter has said to me. Here's the thing, 100% renewable isn't necessarily 100% zero emission. And it comes down to the materials that we need for solar panels, wind turbines, for batteries, for fuel cells. Stuff doesn't grow on trees, okay? Some of it's mined. So on the left is a lithium mine, so lithium being the key component in all of your smartphone batteries, as well as being used in the recent South Australia biggest battery in the world, also very heavy in lithium. On the right is a coal mine. It's a sarcastic meme. It says, oh look, a wind turbine, yuck. You probably can't even see it in the distance. It's a sarcastic meme that was made when Joe Hockey said he thought wind turbines were ugly. Idiot. But wind turbines aren't as wholly unconnected to coal as we might think, and it comes down to the steel that we need to manufacture the wind turbine. So steel is made through an emissions-intensive process using coke and coal. Well, let's not get carried away, okay? Yes, renewables have a carbon impact. Guess what? So do coal-fired power stations. And the ongoing emissions of coal-fired power stations, we have to keep mining our fuel and continuously releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere as a result of that fuel, right? So coal-fired power stations are far worse than renewables. And in fact, the energy payback period of renewables is realised well within the lifetime of the equipment. Sometimes it's only a matter of months. But let's not kid ourselves, they're not zero emission. Now, I've seen some really interesting stuff on renewables breeding, which is the idea that we have renewable energy providing the power input to make renewable energy components. So Elon Musk has plans to have his factory in California making solar panels completely powered by solar energy. And we've made significant strides in solar mining as well. Mostly in regional locations that use sort of diesel generation. They're starting to replace that with solar energy. So we're starting to have good uptake of that. And that's applicable to several areas. But some modelling that I've seen has shown that to take us to the point of full inbreeding of renewables, the cumulative effects of emissions of building the infrastructure that we need to replace what we've got right now, decommissioning what we've got right now, all of those carbon emissions add up. And unfortunately, even if we have a very aggressive move towards renewable energy, we come very close to blowing our carbon budget, our allowance, if you will, for Australia, which limits global warming to below 2 degrees Celsius. And it's not going to happen overnight. So the same modelling that showed how close we're going to get to blowing our carbon budget also showed that to get enough momentum to have full inbreeding of renewables, it's probably going to take us till about 2040 until we're actually realising the emission reductions that we need. It's not just as simple as flipping a switch. So apart from carbon penalties of renewables themselves, we also have to think about the decommissioning of existing infrastructure, the economics of doing that, getting the political will and momentum to do that, new demand from developing nations. All of this means that globally, this is a difficult wheel to push onto a different track. So how do we do it? How do we go about it? Well, how do we move a mountain? One rock at a time. So my idea is using, and what many people think as well, is to use transition technologies. That maybe for now they use fossil fuels, but into the future they can be renewable and they can also be low emission in the meantime. So let's look at an example. It's a bit wordy, the slide, you might not be able to read it, that I've thrown myself into lately, which is the production of hydrogen using coal. There's going to be a quiz on these equations later. Japan. Now there is a country that has aggressive leadership in tackling renewables. So Japan want to be fully decarbonised and fully hydrogen powered by 2050, and they have a very aggressive hydrogen energy roadmap. So why hydrogen? What's so good about hydrogen? So the idea behind hydrogen is we can use hydrogen in a fuel cell and we get electricity out and we get water vapour. No carbon involved there. And we can also make hydrogen using the opposite reaction, where we put electricity in and we get hydrogen and oxygen out. So why bother? We're making hydrogen, we're using hydrogen. The whole idea is to store renewable energy. So we use the electricity from solar and wind power to make as much hydrogen as we can while the sun shines. And then we use it when we want. And hydrogen is a very flexible fuel. We can use it in stationary applications, so for individual homes or for industry, you can use it in a car. It's got a very flexible application. But it's quite difficult to actually split water into hydrogen and oxygen. And in this cycle up on the top right here, we get less energy out than what we put in. So we're losing energy as we go along. And because it's so hard, electrolysis has been around since the 70s to make hydrogen from water splitting. It's still not commercial because splitting water is so difficult. It needs these very special catalysts, platinum-based catalysts, which are expensive. So making hydrogen from water splitting, one day it could be more commercial and realisable, and there's definitely some forward momentum in actually having carbon-based catalysts for water splitting, but we're not there yet. So the idea in the meantime, so Something Australia has on the table at the moment is using Victoria, Latrobe Valley brown coal in order to force a separate or a different reaction to make hydrogen, not water splitting. In fact, what we do with hydrogen from coal or carbon-based sources is first we partially gasify the coal to make carbon monoxide. So it's not full carbon dioxide, we haven't burnt it yet. It's made carbon monoxide, and then we react that with water. And the energy you need for that reaction, it's actually easier to do that reaction than it is to just split water by itself. So we make hydrogen using that path, but we also make carbon dioxide, right? So it's not a zero emission pathway. But the idea is that we set up this new technology, and coal is cheap, gasification is a pretty cheap technology, it's already commercial. So we start this pathway, we start making heaps of hydrogen, we liquefy it, we ship it off to Japan. So we set up this brand new infrastructure chain of supply for hydrogen using coal-based energy. But eventually, we will be able to use solar energy, or we can use the same process that we use for coal but with biomass. So if we do that, it's also lower emissions. So we could eventually, if we act now, on a non-renewable and perhaps not zero emission yet pathway, start setting up some infrastructure to actually have a development chain in place so that when we can make hydrogen renewably, we have that export already set up, it's already paid for. So this is a short-term problem, right, using coal. And actually, it's not zero emission because we're making carbon dioxide. But here's the thing, Japan cares about emissions. So they're not going to go ahead and buy hydrogen from us if it has a big carbon footprint. They're just not going to do it. They want their hydrogen to be low emission overall. So they're not going to invest in this. So part of this project idea is that they will be capturing the carbon dioxide from gasification and storing it underground. So it's called carbon capture and storage. You've probably heard of it, CCS. So it involves capturing the carbon dioxide stream, pressurising it to make it a liquid, and then pumping it into an underground reservoir where we never sees the light of day again. And if we do this, then given that it's from coal, it can be zero emission and it can have a similar emissions profile to using renewable energy. If we do it from biomass, it can be carbon negative, right? So we're actually having a net reduction in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, so that's a positive step forward. So carbon capture's been around a long time. It's been around the same amount of time as electrolysis, really, and let's be honest, it hasn't really gotten anywhere, right? And some people say it won't, that it's just a crutch for the coal industry so they can keep merrily burning away saying they have a plan. So does that mean we should give up on making carbon capture and storage a reality and just focus all of our energy into renewables development? Why are we bothering with this technology, right? It takes energy to capture that carbon dioxide, to compress it, to store it underground. and no one gets any money for it, right? They're not going to do it because they're not getting money for it. Even with the price on carbon, the economics are difficult to stack up. But looking at the numbers globally about emissions, thinking about how long it's going to take, even if we transition to renewables overnight, and all of the carbon emissions that go hand in hand with that, as well as large industries apart from energy that also emit large amounts of carbon dioxide. I'm looking at you, steel making. We do need a technology that can pull carbon dioxide out of processes, out of the atmosphere, and store it away. And we need it desperately, I would argue. But without aggressive movement from government, there's no selling point for this technology. Why are they going to bother putting carbon capture and storage in if they don't care about emissions? But there's another way. And yay, we're getting to the positive part of the story. So when you think about carbon capture and storage, it's thinking about carbon dioxide as a problem. It's expensive, we've got to get rid of it. It's all just too difficult, all right? That's carbon capture and storage. We need to shift our thinking. What if instead carbon dioxide was useful? It was a valuable feedstock that we could use to make other useful products. And that's the idea behind carbon capture and utilisation, or carbon capture and transformation. So let's stop treating carbon dioxide as problematic and start treating it as useful. Carbon is so useful. We use it in so many different things. So this is a technology I've started working on recently. One thing I love about it is that it has the ability to solve or to address a number of problems. So the idea behind it is basically instead of burning carbon, so carbon and oxygen making carbon dioxide and heat, what if we could go the other way? And what if we could make carbon from carbon dioxide? Well, it turns out we can. It's not irreversible. You just have to have the right conditions in place. And actually there's a process using electrochemical inputs that has really, really neat synergies with concentrated solar thermal energy. And because we're starting from scratch, we can basically grow our carbon to be whatever we want it to be. So we can make these very specialised carbon materials that we can use in batteries, in supercapacitors. That's energy storage. It's also used outside of energy storage in water treatment, even in drug uptake and delivery. So we could have a process where we're capturing carbon dioxide, we're not allowing it to be emitted, we're making a really high value product of carbon, and we're also using solar thermal energy. So if we're making something from solar thermal energy, that's another export that we could potentially have from our vast renewable resources here in Australia. So, and that's just one example. One example of what we can do with carbon dioxide. There's many different things you can do with carbon dioxide. The concept's called drawdown. So you can also do things like making building materials. You can make polymers that can be used in chairs and mattresses. You can use it you can manage it using agricultural practices and different things like that. So, yeah. That's just one example, the list goes on. So let's stop thinking about it as a problem, let's start thinking about it as something we can use, and maybe we'll actually get some movement in trying to actually do something about carbon emissions. And to sum up, renewable energy uptake, very important. Should be number one. Let's push renewable energy uptake as far as we possibly can. While everyone's dragging their feet, let's use transition technologies that also have a similar emission profile to renewables and can be pushed onto a renewables pathway. And we also need these carbon-based solutions that we're actually going to end up having negative carbon emissions because we're getting pretty close to blowing it no matter what we do. So it's probably going to come to a point where we've got to take that energy out. So we need this technology, no matter who funds it.